This is the most important and crucial period of your lives, for what you do now and what you decide now at this age may well determine which way your life shall go. And the question is whether you have a proper, a solid, and a sound blueprint. And I want to suggest some of the things that should be in your life's blueprint. Number one in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own somebodyness. Don't allow anybody to make you feel that you are nobody. Always feel that you count. Always feel that you have worth. And always feel that your life has ultimate.
Thank you for tapping in. It's your man, Brian HRap B. Williams. This is the End of the Bench Media. Thank you for tapping in. It's very important that you do so. Hit that like, hit that share, tell a friend to tell a friend to tap in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, with that being said, you already know what I want you to do. I want you to go to www.theendofthebench.com. Watch this episode in its entirety, and that way we can interact on a higher level. Thank you for tapping in. You will put me in the algorithm. You will help the program in its absolute progress. And that, my friends, is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help us in our absolute progress, because our progress is paramount to information. Information allows us to excel and prevail. In the moment we start doing that, we're unstoppable. Now, again, hit that like, hit that share, subscribe if you haven't. I want to thank my parents, Dolores and John. I do that every episode. Why do I do that? Because without them, there is no me. Without me, there is no End of the Bench. You'll be doing something else with your valuable time, as I state every single solitary day. It is important that I do that because I want to pay homage to my parents. My parents are my essence. Now, with that being said, grassroots is the name of the game. Grassroots. Why do I call it grassroots? Because that's the beginning. That is basic people, traditional, ordinary, everyday people here in America doing everything they can to ensure that we do everything we can to make an advance in society. And when you do that, you put yourself in a better situation. When you put yourself in a better situation at that moment, you become better in society. You become more valuable to your society. You become more valuable to the essence of the community, and everything moves the way it should. Now, with that being said, what is a grassroots movement? That's the beginning. That's the foundation. And that's why I use that farmer on my thumbnail. The farmer is to represent where we came from. Once we were emancipated in this country, and this country was in full effect, this country was just barely, it was only 90-some years old when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. 1776 to 1865 is not a long time. So we're going to start. That's going to be our beginning. That is our Independence Day. That's why Juneteenth is important. We overlook things and issues that surround us and are important to us. First and foremost, something that I harp on a regular basis. I always focus on the past and history and knowing your history, because again, it's just like the term Sankofa. If you are looking back to understand where you are, you can use your past, your present, and to determine your future. And this is why grassroots in the beginning is so darn important. We are entering an instance or a time in which things are paramount. We must remember, put ourselves back together with our people, meaning speak with our elders, speak with our parents, speak with our neighbors, and speak with everybody to understand where we come from. Even reach out to your parents. I would really, truly love for everybody who is not in the southern portion of the country to start reaching out to the people who are in the southern portion of the country, because they have memories, they have footnotes, they have experiences that we don't, living in the Los Angeles and the Clevelands and the Milwaukees and the Detroits and the Chicagos and the St. Louis and the New York, New Jersey areas. We don't have the same experience because, see, we have been duped into a metropolitan mind state. We don't live in a metropolitan country. We live in a very racist society, and people who deny racism and people who talk this bootstrap nonsense. Oh man, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. That happened a long time ago. They give you 1,000,001 excuses why you should be okay, overlooking the fact that every time we have attempted to move forward in this country, some group of people who are not part of our community, they've stepped in our way and put us in a disadvantage. Now, I said a disadvantage. They didn't stop anything. But what they'll also do is inculcate people from our community, and then what they'll do is say, "Hey, see, he made it. Look at Ida B. Wells. You could be her. You could be C.W. Gurley. You could be Mary McLeod Bethune. And you could be this, and you could be that. We could be a lot of things if you get out of our way." These are the things that make us stagnant in this country, because we keep talking this nonsense about accountability and you're responsible for your own independence and things of that nature. And at the end of the day, you are. But if we're going to talk about trauma and psychological image and things like that, when it comes to spanking your children, when it comes to PTSD and things of that nature, and then we're going to understand things that are scientific, like epigenetics, we're also going to start saying, you know what, that applies to me. Because if my mom was a victim of DV, domestic violence, or my grandma was a victim of domestic violence, and my mom fell into that same mind state, and then now it's me. Guess what? Those things were passed down. Though we can admit that, hey man, my grandmother accepted it, and my mom accepted it, and now I'm accepting it, and that's just the cycle of life, and we'll go along with that. But we don't want to admit that for 200 years, our mothers, sisters, aunts, cousins, daughters were beat, stolen, raped, molested, and things like that. And those same traumas are passed down for hundreds of years. And guess what? If you do it for 3 generations, well, you know what you need, young lady or young man? You need some therapy. You need to flush out all that pain so you can start to rebuild. And once you flush out all that pain, what you'll be able to do is start anew, and then you'll be able to move forward. Apply that to a community. Apply that to a group of people who were captured, human trafficked, enslaved, beaten down to buck private, and then set free, and then the laws were set in place. And then the Ku Klux Klan was invented. And then other statutes were put in place. And then you had to deal with things like afraid to walk home, not being able to look another man in the eye, being discriminated against at all costs, herded into certain areas so you can never spread your wings and live up to your full capacity. It's a story about an eagle that was put in a coop with a bunch of chickens, and he was known as the ugly chicken. And all the chickens, another eagle came through and said, "What you doing here with these chickens?" I'm paraphrasing. And he said, "I'm a chicken." He said, "No, you're not your eagle," and spread his wings and flew away. If we're never going to identify ourselves as eagles, we're gonna look at ourselves as chickens or buzzards or chickens or other birds that can't even fly, and all we can do is run around and like without the information and the acumen to be as great as we are, we will always assume that we're chickens. And that's what we are, because soon as something happens in our community, see, we know that person. Because you know what I noticed? How is it that we aren't like Barack Obama and we aren't like Cory Booker? Shout out to Cory Booker for the performance for your fight last night, the last 24 hours or 36 hours. Salute to Cory Booker. Why aren't we Michelle Obama? Why aren't we former Vice President Kamala Harris and so forth, so on, C. Dolores Tucker and a million other women? Why aren't we those people? Why are we not O.W. Gurley? Why are we not a million other black men who've done wonderful things? But the moment something horrible happens, we attach ourselves to the horrible. That's psychological. That's not by mistake. That's something that has been beaten into you, that you are less than, you are not worthy of, and you expect me to wake up one morning and just be okay after 400 years of that. You are inside insanity and outside of your mind. We are no longer going to buy into that. That's why I'm saying grassroots is the way. Grassroots is the way to do it. We start off at the foundation, understanding who we are and what we've gone through, and understanding where we are currently and then where we want to be. When those people, enslaved people, were emancipated after they won the war, after their 40 years of fighting President Andrew Jackson in the Seminole Wars and being battle tested, after they were battle tested on the continent, creating with people like the Ashantis and the Zulu Nation, understanding true warrior mentality. And then you put us here, because what we've been taught is they just threw a big net out there in Africa and had some old sellout buck dancing brothers and sisters help them grab us and they were shipped over here. No, no, no. What we were was they went over there and got some of the best architects. They got the best agricultural people, and then they got some of the biggest, strongest people, and they didn't understand they were picking up warrior class people. That's why so many of our ancestors are in the Atlantic Ocean right now, because they just refuse to come here. So many people, what they don't tell you is things like pirate ships. Those are not, Blackbeard was a black man. That's why he was Blackbeard. You think he was the only dude with a black beard? No, there's a lot of our brothers and sisters riding around the oceans because they were navigational geniuses, because that's who they knew. They knew who we were before you were informed of who you are at this date and time. We must understand those things. You must understand the psychological effect of seeing someone hung on a regular basis, knowing that your life could be in jeopardy for the wrong thing, knowing that they will burn down towns, they will kill all the men, as many men as they could see. They will exercise that Second Amendment that a lot of our people love to talk and brag about to this day. What do you think the psychological effect of a man who's saying, hey man, we need to register to vote so we can have our voices heard in the United States of America? He's shot on his front lawn. And then you get another man who's saying, look, if they shoot at you, shoot back. Don't start no fights, but don't let no fights come to you and you don't defend yourself. And then that man is shot dead in front of the world. And then a man who is saying, I love God. I'm a pastor. I'm Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I don't want to hear anybody. I just want people to treat my people fairly, and they shoot him dead. What do you think the psychological effect? And then you got this guy named Fred Hampton, who's organizing the Asians. He's organized the Latinos. He organized Anglo and the Black people, and call it the Rainbow Coalition. And then you shoot him dead in front of his wife, not far from where I live presently. What type of psychological effect do you think that has on people? It has to be devastating. But we don't talk about those things because, for one, our elders try to protect us from that trauma. But that's the wrong thing to do. We need to understand that trauma. We must look that trauma directly in the eye. And when we look that trauma directly in the eye, we get a better understanding of why we are where we are and what's going on. See, it's easy to say, hey, the man put drugs and guns in our community. And then you have that other person going, well, you didn't have to. See, we always have the understanding of why we shouldn't have, never trying to figure out why we did. See, what I'm going to show you right now in regards to the Black History video is how this country was set up to make you fail and everybody else succeed. I'm going to show you a little more than I normally do, because I really want you to go to my website, which is, you already know, let me pull it up on the screen, www.theendofthebench.com, www.theendofthebench, Theendofthebench.com. And watch on the left-hand video, you will see this actual show. On the right-hand side, you'll see the video that I'm about to show you, the promises that they made and they never lived up to them. I want you to understand this, because when you understand this, you'll understand what type of peril you face. Please watch this video. I'll be back shortly. This is your man, HRap.
Reconstruction was a time period from around 1865 to 1877, and it was an effort to reintegrate Southern states back into the Union, as well as to find 4 million newly freed African Americans' place in American society. And if this is the type of content that you enjoy, you can find more at onemikehistory.com. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so at my Patreon page or my Buy Me Coffee in the description below. Also, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. But without further ado, let's get started. From the outset of the Civil War, slavery was tied to the fight over states' rights, with the differences being between supporters of slavery and proponents of free labor, dividing the country politically, economically, culturally, as well as ideology. Free labor was the idea that a person had the right to work for themselves or determine whether or not they wanted to work for someone else. From the beginning, Abraham Lincoln did not want to make the abolishment of slavery a goal for the Union war effort. He feared that it would drive border states still loyal to the Union into the Confederacy and anger conservative Northerners. By the summer of 1862, however, Lincoln realized that he had no choice. Thus, the Emancipation Proclamation was born, and it freed more than 4 million enslaved people in states still in the Confederacy after January 1st, 1863. However, the proclamation left more than 700,000 African Americans still in bondage in Delaware, Kentucky, Maryland, Missouri, as well as Union occupied areas in Louisiana, Tennessee, and Virginia.
Too much Mac clutter?
The Emancipation Proclamation changed the Civil War and the United States. It ensured that a Union victory would mean a complete revolution in the South. However, it was still very unclear what that revolution would look like. In the fall of 1863, Lincoln began planning for the reunification of the United States, and over the next several years, Lincoln considered ideas about how to deal with Southern states involved in the rebellion. Under Lincoln's policy, men highly placed in the Confederate Army or government would not immediately regain their right to vote. Most Southern men would not be punished if they promised to support the United States government and accepted the end of slavery. Members of Congress viewing Lincoln's plan felt that it was too nice to the Confederates and did not go far enough to protect newly freed people. Congress countered Lincoln's policies with the Wade-Davis bill, which temporarily put former Confederate states under military control. This bill had the president appointing governors to oversee this transition of former Confederate states. And under these governors, majority of the voting population had to swear their loyalty, after which each state was required to pass a new state constitution that outlawed slavery. Like Lincoln's plan, high-ranking officials in the Confederate government or military men would not be able to vote, and only men who swore that they did not support the Confederacy would be able to vote for delegates who would then write the state's new constitution. Additionally, the Wade-Davis bill provided free people with limited civil rights. Lincoln refused to sign the Wade-Davis bill, so it never became law. In April 14, 1865, during the performance of Our American Cousin at Forest Theater, any plans Lincoln had for Reconstruction would fall on Andrew Johnson. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln propelled the Vice President Andrew Johnson into the executive office in 1865. Johnson was a firm believer in states' rights and an unapologetic racist. In Johnson's eyes, the Southern states had never given up their rights to govern themselves, and the federal government had no right to determine voter requirements. Johnson showed very little concern over the status of free people, believing that they needed to be controlled by whites. He offered the South quick restoration into the Union, and his Reconstruction plan required provisional Southern governments to void ordinance of succession, pay off their war debts, ratify the 13th Amendment. All other matters, Southern state governments were given free rein, rebuild themselves as they saw fit. for former slave owners. They were being crushed by the South's economic downturn. Before the war, most Southern planters' wealth was dependent on their slaves and their land. So after the war, the federal government declared that Confederate dollars were worthless and the planters lost their slaves as compensation. Given these financial issues, planters needed a docile, willing, or forced labor force to work for low wages. Employers were convinced that African Americans would not work without being forced to by stringent vagrancy laws.
And as I was saying, as you see, do you see that or did you hear that? Watch the rest of that video in its entirety. It's on Country Boy One Mic History, or you can go to www.theintervention.com and watch it in its entirety. I prefer that you do the latter of the two. Country Boy will get his credit, but I will get credit as well. I'll get credit for you coming to my website and you'll be able to see this. The reason I showed you that video is because you see how the United States federal government said, you know what, bump that. We know we screwed you over, as they're doing presently. We know that we're screwing you over. We're going to do everything we can to continue to screw you over. We're going to make it legal to screw you over. We're not going to give you your 40 acres and a mule. We're not going to give you the protections. What if I'd let it continue to play? I'm going to remove the military presence so you'll have the protection of the government and you're going to be on your own. What does that have to do with grassroots? At that moment, from that moment on in 1877, 1865 or 1866, at that moment, that's when grassroots started. Grassroots started. At that point, you had to become a sharecropper, or you had to move west, or you had to create a way. This is that moment again. Here we are 162 years later, and it's time to recreate that moment. Why is it time to recreate that moment? Because if we are to believe that the United States federal government, even after all this time, it is any less racist than it was at that point, you would have to be crazy. You would actually have to be crazy. What is grassroots? Those people started what was called sharecropping, where they were working for the man, doing all the hard work, doing all the labor, and then splitting their profit. Never seen very little profit, but guess what they did? They were able to take that little bit of profit and create land ownership, which I am still owner and partially owner of at this very moment. My great grandmother, her name is Mattie Mae Turner. She worked for 17 cents a year, and she owns land. And she has willed that to me and my cousins and my siblings and so forth and so on. We own that land to this day. If we can do that 160 years ago, we can do it right now. What we can start doing is also continue to sharecrop, which is get up and go to work on a regular basis. But we're going to use our money and stop fighting against each other and using the force of the situation against us. And we can continue to build for once and for all, become literate. And not just being able to read words and read books. We must become legally literate. We must be constitutionally literate and understand what's going on so we can fight against the ills and evilness of the United States federal government. When you have people like Cory Booker, we must be as locked in regards to the legal processes and the constitutional laws in our state, the laws of our county, the laws of our city, and the laws in the United States of America, so that this can never happen to us again. And then once we do that, we already understand that integration is not the way. Most people, then when you say it's time to pull away, I have a clip that I posted on my Instagram, and I'm going to post it on Fanbase, and I'm going to post it on Spill as well. And it's showing Muhammad Ali was like, hey, we want to be separate. Why y'all want to use white dollars? Because we made the white dollar valuable. Because we made the white dollar valuable. And then what we're going to do is understand that things like the Negro Leagues, surely after you had things like the Negro Leagues and other entities, the Black basketball leagues and hockey. Yes, Black people invented hockey. When we create things like that, and even if there's this bigger or mainstream, I don't understand how, if I have the attention of Black America focusing upon me, and that's who I'm attempting to reach, and other communities come in, how is that not the mainstream? Negro League baseball was starting to filter, but white America was starting to come over to the Negro League side of the baseball, and guess what? It was the most entertaining baseball, but we thought that the MLB was the major leagues, because who said it? The oppressor said it. We must stop believing the hype. We must stop buying into the foolishness and the madness of our oppressors' way of thinking. Once we do that, and then at that point, simultaneously, we can stop seeing things the way we don't see them. It's not the way I see it, so I don't want to pay attention to it. Again, I've said this. If I said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Once we all become billionaires, once we all have our own 40, more minimum 40 acres and a mule, once we all are able to meet up somewhere, and then we can have that argument about who's right and who's wrong. Up until and including that moment, what we're going to do is work together, looking past our differences. Maybe I don't like fat people. Maybe I don't like short people. Maybe I don't like light-skinned people. Maybe I don't like dark-skinned people. Maybe I don't like people with loose curl in their hair. Let's table that situation until we become emancipated. And once we're emancipated and have our own situations, and we can be in a safe burrow and not have the ills of humanity in the United States of America attempting to hunt us down, and then we can have that discussion. Up until then, why don't you conduct yourself accordingly and be a member of the community? Because whatever you are, whatever sect that you're a part of, you are not a part of that sect at birth. You were part of this sect, the brown scam sect, the black sect, the African American sect. And if you want to call yourself ADOS, descendants of African slaves, you can do that. You can call yourself whatever you want to. But at the end of the day, if you're part of this diaspora, I'm going to need you to work together with the brothers and sisters who are trying to emancipate us and uplift us and put us in the best possible situation. And then you can separate yourselves any way you choose. But let's not focus on the negatives. I continue to tell us why we worried about the 2% that's at the top, the millionaires and the billionaires in the country that don't want to help us. And the 5% of the people that are breaking the law and living a lawless life and have no regard for anything that goes on in our community. Why are we paying attention to those people? I think it's asinine to pay attention to those people, because those people are not helping these people, especially when you're talking about probably about 7, maybe even 14% of our population that's not benefiting the 86%. Let's focus on the 86%. The poor righteous teachers, the people who are getting up every day going to work, who are trying to make life better for their children, who are putting themselves in an advantageous situation so they can have something. Y'all know my slogan. I didn't say it at the top of the show, but I'm going to say it right now. So they can make their great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren life a better existence. But until we figure that out, we're going to continue to do hopefully we can do what I'm requesting. Like, for example, start planting like a lot of us have family members with yards that they're not even maximizing. Why don't you go to your family member yard or go to your yard and plant some things like tomatoes and peppers and things of that nature? Other of us have a nice size large yard. Why don't we start building little things like a chicken coop? One of the things that I noticed that everybody complaining about is eggs. How much space do you have in your backyard? How much room does a chicken need to walk around freely? Do you understand? A chicken is nothing to buy. A chicken costs nothing to maintain. And a chicken probably laying about 6 to 8 eggs on a regular basis. You can take those eggs and you can feed your family, your children, your sisters and brothers. And then guess what? That's something that you don't have to buy. If your friend down the road is making tomatoes, some people might be making peppers, and we can do that. See, and don't look for something they ain't give me anything, because guess what? My late aunt, Alice Newsom, she used to make preserves, and she used to live in Cairo, Illinois, about 5 hours away. She would bring those preserves up to Chicago and hand them out to family members, never asking them for a dime. That's part of the grassroots movement. I have the ability. You have the need. I'll give it to you. You don't have to give me anything in return. You give it to somebody else. And we start living like that. And then for the person, because I know it's somebody in this audience that's going, but ain't nobody going to do nothing for me. But I didn't ask you to do anything. I asked you to do something for somebody. And guess what? That positive energy will work its way back to you. Stop looking for something in return. If you want the community to be better, start doing for the community. Some of your friends could plant greens. Some of your friends could plant cabbage. And guess what? If it's 10 or 15 of y'all can exchange these things and go home and sit back and say, man, I've saved a lot of time and I've saved a lot of money. But the most important thing you found out is this: how to develop and cultivate things. How to develop, organize, develop, and cultivate. You organize. How did you organize? Because you start working together. You immobilize because you said, I'm going to do this and we're going to do this. You organize and you get these things together and you're going to give them away. And then you galvanize, you bring the community together, because now you understand it takes time and work to get these plants in order. It takes time and work to figure out how we're going to help people. It takes time and work to help people. Now you take yourself out of this mental microwave that you've been living in for the last few years, because it's supposed to happen like this. It's supposed to happen like this. No, it doesn't. Nothing happens like this. It all happens with at a slow pace. It may even be an arduous task that you have to climb and put a whole lot of backbone and muscle into it. But if you're willing to do it and you're willing to work together without getting anything back, what did Dr. King get back? What did Malcolm X get back? What did Medgar Evers get back? What did Fred Hampton get back? They all got nothing and they lost their lives. So if they're willing to lose their lives, why don't you lose some of your free time and do everything you can in your community to uplift it? Before I go, I'm going to address something that I'm sick and tired of hearing from these celebrities, so-called celebrities and superstars, or whatever you want to identify them as. This is something that gets on my last darn nerve about celebrities. And the last person I heard it from was a celebrity who goes by the name Shannon Sharp. Him, and I've heard dozens of celebrities say, as soon as you get to the top, people start complaining. I'm the same, and his words were, I'm the same person y'all was supporting months ago. First of all, I am going to insult you. Shannon Sharp, you're a damn fool. No more people are hating on you than anybody else. And no one is actually hating on you just because they don't agree with everything you say or they don't agree with your actions. That's not hate. That's being critical. And guess what? The last time I checked, you get millions of dollars to criticize athletes on TV every day, just like me. My audience has grown 250 people in the last 90 days. And guess what? I have racists now in my comments. I used to have the brothers and sisters, man, good show. Man, I like what you're doing. Continue doing good, brother. But now I'm getting racists in my show calling me a bigot because I want to stand up for my community. And they criticize the things that I'm saying. They are not more haters. My audience is expanding. So if I only had 100 people watching and only one person said something bad, guess what? Or 10 people said something bad, guess what? When I get to 1,000, it's going to be 100. And when I get to 10,000, so forth and so on. So Shay, you used to be directed to sports fans. There are hundreds of millions of people. I don't even mean hundreds of people, hundreds of millions of us that really don't give a darn about sports. They can care less than a darn about sports. But once you start opening your door to pop culture, once you open your door to have more people pay attention to you, guess what? You're going to have more critics. You know, kind of like you. When I was playing basketball at William E. Gladstone, when I was playing basketball up in Manil, when I was playing basketball at Oz Park, nobody knew who I was. When I was playing football at the same places, when I was playing for Coach Fields and Coach Green and Coach Thomas and other coaches and Mac and everybody else, nobody knew who I was. If I would have made it to the league, the moment I fumble, the moment I get scored on it for a touchdown, the moment I got beat for a first down or anything, it's more people going to pay attention. So Shannon, more people are not hating on you. Your audience grew, and it's the same percentage of people that don't like what you're doing. You say a lot of controversial things, and you don't want people to respond to that controversy because you want people to fall in line, and then you want to put it on the black. It's only our community. Really? Well, how the hell did Cisco and Ebert became millionaires? Because they criticized everybody in the world's movie, or they big up everybody in the world's movie. They're music critics that do the same thing. So why don't you take your stupid ass and realize that, hey, when your audience expands, you get more critics. You can get more critics, you're going to get more criticism. And don't put it on our community anymore, you damn fool. And yes, I am angry about it because he sounds like a damn fool consistently saying that black people are the only people that tear people down. Really? Well, how the hell did you end up here, mister? You tell stories about how people told your grandmother she couldn't go to church and they had to clean her clothes. Were they black people? I think not. See, this is the stupidity that we buy into. It's always us. It's always your family that's going to hurt you. You know why your family hurts you, ladies and gentlemen, haters and better friends? It's because those are the people that know you better than anybody else. Abject strangers on the street don't know how to hurt your feelings. Your family does. Your girlfriend knows how to hurt your feelings. Your boyfriend knows how to hurt your feelings. Your significant other knows how to hurt your feelings. I don't know how to do that. So instead of just always putting the focus on the black community, why don't you realize my audience has grown, my critics will grow, the criticism will be louder. But it is utterly amazing how someone who criticizes someone for a living, who dissects what they do for a living, has a problem with people being critical about them. And stop, you and the rest of these dumbass celebrities, y'all really need to stop putting it on our community. You damn fools. Yes, I'm angry. Yes. I usually don't use profane language. I don't think I said it was damn fool and ass and things of that nature. But if that offended you, I apologize. But I'm tired of people saying that we're crabs in a barrel. We're crabs in a barrel. No, we're not. We're human beings. And it's going to be people who criticize me potentially about this. When I post my stuff on Instagram, when I post my stuff on Twitter, when I post myself on Fanbase, when I post myself on Spill, when I post my stuff on Spout, I get criticism. And the more my platform grows, the more criticism I'm going to get. And I'm not going to attribute it to black people. Because guess what? You weren't mad when they was calling you a coon and a monkey and stuff like that. But when the brothers and sisters start criticizing you as well, you had a problem. I'm the same dude who stuck up for Colin Kaepernick. But you also the same dude that always saying that you shouldn't reach back and help people. You also the same dude that say that's why when the one young ignorant young man Cam Newton's camp acted a fool, or the few of them acted a fool, I would never come back. That's worth criticism, because you don't punish hundreds of children because 4 of them are damn fools. Because you know what? Remember when you told a story about how you used to have horrible grades? What if they would have just kicked you out of school because you don't have good grades? What would you be doing right now, Mr. Shaw? But somebody gave a darn about you, and somebody actually poured into you. And then you became a better individual in life, and you were able to educate yourself and expand your knowledge base. And now you're a multimillionaire, and you a host of 2 successful podcasts and a co-host on one of the most successful shows on television. As you criticize athletes for their inability to live up to standards that you've created, but you don't want to hear criticism about yourself. Interesting. With that being said, I thank you guys. And if I offended you with my anger, I'm sorry. It's who I am. I had to say it, and I'm going to continue to say it. I'm tired of these clowns like Stephen A. Smith, like Shannon Sharp, and other black men and black women on TV that are always talking about we can criticize them more. No, I guarantee you, if seeing how you have 2 of the more popular podcasts on air right now, there are far more people supporting you than hating on you or disagreeing with you. Use your words, Jack. You use your vocabulary, since you're so damn smart. Use your vocabulary. It's people that not hating on you, they disagreeing with you. Just like it's gonna be people that disagree with me. I'm sick of this. And I'm gonna start calling these buffoons and clowns out. I'm gonna start just doing segments in which I'm going to just slap them in the face. It's not even gonna be a 20-minute, half hour, a few minutes with HRap. It's going to be HRap coming on for about a minute and a half, calling those clowns out, and then I'm disappeared back into the ether. With that being said, y'all go see me tomorrow. It was wonderful. To the people in the chat room, thank you. For the people, hit that like, hit that share, tell a friend to tap in. I appreciate everybody. You got mad love for everybody. Thank you. This is HRap V, 2 fingers, 1 word.
And it is necessary for those people who rule over us and who rule over African people the world over, if those people are to stay in power, they must destroy our ability to love each other in a healthy sort of way. This is why